It's been a while. It's been way too long since I talked about the best tall playmaking guard out of Australia. Look, at least right now he fits that criteria, but the way Josh Giddey is progressing, who knows? Maybe by the time Ben Simmons does find a trade, Josh Giddey will be the best tall playmaking guard out of Australia because the last few games, he has played the best basketball of his career, at least as an NBA player, and it's no coincidence the Thunder have come up with some wins, and him and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are starting to form a pretty lethal backcourt duo with some really interesting looks that we're seeing from two guys that are tall, oversized guards that can playmake, create their own shots, and just do a bit of everything. But I want to focus on Josh Giddey because, after all, he is the Australian guard, and he is someone that I have had a lot of interest in this season, and that interest hasn't dissipated because he's only getting better. Now, before I talk about that, if you could just quickly drop a like in the video, that would be much appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, or if you haven't subscribed already, that would be cool. Now, if you've watched the Thunder at all, you know what Josh Giddey really specializes in. He's a great rebounder, and he's a particularly great passer and playmaker. He can do a bit of everything as a passer, ambidextrous, both hands, inbounds passes, transition passes, behind the backs, around the corner. It doesn't really matter. He can do a little bit of everything. And I'll obviously talk about his passing, but I don't want to start with his passing. I want to start with his scoring, because if there's one aspect of his game that I think is kind of unfairly criticized, now, don't get me wrong, I'm not coming on here to say he's not a great scorer, he's not a good scorer, but I think a lot of people seem to think he's this really bad scorer, which I don't particularly agree with, and I'll explain why. But let's just talk about the things that he does pretty decently as a scorer. In terms of finishing at the rim, he averages 3 attempts a game and shoots 55%. You can see him in transition, he can get to the rim, he glides to the rim on occasions. Sometimes he'll hit you with a crossover and get downhill. It's a part of his game that he can definitely improve when you consider he is 6'8", 6'7", whatever he is as a point guard, getting downhill and using his size and hopefully his strength as he gets a bit bigger. You could definitely see him becoming a better finisher at the rim, but as of right now, for a rookie guard, he's pretty solid. He's pretty solid in that department. Now, the one area of his game as a scorer where he's actually better than every rookie in the league is that 5 to 10 feet range, basically that floater range, the flip shot range, the hook shot range, any of those things that you want to call it. Josh Giddey, that's where he specializes. That is where he specializes, and that's why I've got hope that he'll only continue to get better as a finisher, because he does have that really nice touch in and around the rim, whether it's a little flip shot, a hook shot, going with either hand. He's got the ability to put defenders off balance. He's got the ability to go up against smaller defenders and finish over them, or bigger defenders and just freeze them. That's what he does really well. Spin moves, all of this, fakes, just getting defenders off balance and utilizing his height and size advantage to finish within the 5 to 10 feet range really effectively. Now, I think he's going to be able to utilize this even more once the OKC Thunder get a more adequate lob threat. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl's been fantastic as a pick and pop guy, and in general, he's been really good as a second round pick as a rookie. He's been great, but I also think they can definitely upgrade that position with a lob threat for SGA and Josh Giddey to throw some lobs up and just have more of a presence. Because you look at the likes of Trae Young and Tyrese Halliburton that are also really good in that 5 to 10 feet, that floater range, and they're even better and even more effective because they normally have someone that can go upstairs and they have that little hesitation, which just leaves the defense guessing a little bit more than if Josh Giddey is constantly looking to score in those situations. Because we know you give him a lob threat, you give him a chance to throw a lob, he's going to be able to do that. He can make pretty much any pass you can imagine, and he's only going to get better as both a scorer and a playmaker if he has that consistent go-to move, and a pick and roll move with those kind of tools is something that's just going to be incredibly effective for him and the Thunder. So that's what I want to see the Thunder do, go out and get a lob threat, whether that's in the draft, whether that's in free agency. Who knows how they do it, but I think if they can do it, that would be nice to see. But getting back on topic, when I'm talking about Josh Giddey's scoring and why I say it's not terrible in my opinion. I mean, we're already seeing the numbers over the last 10 games start to shift in a positive direction, at least inside and around the rim. But in general, he's pretty good from most aspects on the floor apart from shooting. I know, That is a huge area of his game that he needs to improve. He needs to be able to shoot the ball. It's that simple. He's going to need to be able to shoot the ball unless he just becomes an absolute beast in transition, but he's not Ben Simmons. No pun intended. He's not Ben Simmons in transition or getting to the rim. So he needs to be able to shoot the ball, and at least he's shown signs at times, but that's where the inefficiencies lay. He is someone who shoots around 47% from nearly 8 two-point attempts a game, which is pretty solid, but he just can't shoot the ball, which really puts his efficiency down, and seems to have people kind of misconstruing this with his overall scoring game, which in reality, it's mainly just one part of his game which he really struggles at, and that's shooting the three ball. Now, am I some kind of expert? Do I know if he's going to become a good three-point shooter? I don't. It's something that's very obvious. That's something that he can clearly work on, and he's shooting 65% from the line. He's had some games where his three-point shot has looked good. He's made some threes off movement, off the catch. Like, he doesn't have the worst form, at least from my opinion. I think there is room to believe he can become an adequate three-point shooter. If he can become an adequate three-point shooter, someone that is at least a threat from there consistently, which opens up the driving lanes and means the likes of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Lou Dort can drive and kick, and ultimately, that's why his efficiency is low, and that's why he's forced into taking these shots, because you've got guys like Shai and Lou Dort that are driving and kicking and attacking the rim. And in general, the Thunder are a team that shoot a lot of threes and do so ineffectively. It's that simple. The Thunder as a team don't have many good three-point shooters. So Josh Giddey is not alone. They're not creating enough good three-point looks. He's not making enough. It's all a bit of a mess from shooting-wise for the OKC Thunder. But just finishing on his scoring, before I get into his playmaking, just one more note. In the 2 games without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, we have seen him put up 17, 8, and 7 on 50% from the field. Does this mean SGA is a bad influence? No, but it just shows that a lot of people who might suggest Josh Giddey doesn't have that same kind of scoring ability of a Cade Cunningham or even a Franz Wagner, guys of that nature, which I don't think he does at this point consistently, but he can put up better numbers when he is the number 1 option or the number 2 option, like some of these guys have been consistently throughout the season. He's been the 2nd, the 3rd option pretty much every single night, sometimes even the 4th option. So that's why when you see him without SGA, he can pop off for those kind of performances. He's got that in his arsenal to have those kind of nights. That's what I do want to say. Now, let's move away from the scoring and let's talk about what he genuinely does fantastically, what makes him a potentially special all-star, all-NBA level player. This is what's going to be the difference, and that is passing. Now, if we just look at the stats, he leads all rookies in assists per game and is doing so with a pretty impressive assist-to-turnover ratio as well. But I think most of what we see from Josh Giddey as a passer, it goes beyond the stats. It's what he can do with both hands. It's his whip passes. It's his vision. It's his ability to just make split decisions. I think a good example of this, just in one game, if we were to dissect one game, was his game against Memphis, in which he had 19 and 11 assists, and he pretty much showed off everything in one game that you would hope to see. Inbound passes, and that's something that he's fantastic at, not something that we should take lightly. His ability to make reads off inbound passes, finding divers to the rim or open shooters. We saw one in the Lakers game as well, which was obviously fantastic, but just consistently finding cutters, attacking the rim off the inbound passes. It's a very effective thing to have, and he's someone that's really good at that already. He showed off his transition passing, and he also showed off the flair, the ability to stop on a dime in midair. That doesn't even really make sense, but you know what I'm trying to say, and that behind the back pass to Derek Favors. Those are the kind of things that you get from Josh Giddey, and to see that in just one game kind of sums up what he is as a passer. Uses both hands, can go over the head, can go across the body. He's someone that will really take advantage of the defense with his passing, and that's what makes him a potentially special passer. He's already one of the best, probably 15 passers in the league. Don't think that's a stretch to say, but he can definitely be a top 10 passer at some point in his career. Who knows how high he can get up in those rankings, but that's what's going to separate him, and that's what's potentially giving him the chance to be an all-star, all-NBA level player. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Josh Giddey. I think he's been really good recently. He's been particularly good. We've seen him without SGA have some bigger scoring performances, which shows that he can do it when he's given a little bit more of a scoring load. He's also had some big passing performances, and then recently he's had a couple of huge rebounding performances, which shouldn't get overlooked either. It's not like he's just out there grabbing useless rebounds either. I know no rebounds are useless, but for him to get the ball and then attack in transition, you see a lot of transition points created by him getting the rebounds and either trying to push it coast to coast or finding someone off an outlet pass. It's important to have a guard with vision that can also rebound. We've seen it with Westbrook, or we've seen it with a big like Nikola Jokic. To have these guys as really good rebounders definitely helps the team. So that's something that shouldn't get overlooked either. He's in the right place at the right time and uses his length on the boards really well. He's going to be a triple-double threat for a long time to come. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about Josh Giddey. Have a nice day.